Okay, Mr. Tights.
Get my order. Everything back in place.
I lost mine again.
We're on hospital now, I believe.
U.S.
We're on full
Use Code, Use Code 4E, Hospital Medical Center or Clinic.
Yes, thank you. And the clerk has requested that I talk faster. Then she's going to complain she can't get it down. Hospital, medical center, or clinic. Again, a couple of counselors raised this, but again, we can't change the definition in the entire definition section. So I kind of tried to come up with a patchwork of thinking, well, we don't want a big, huge hospital, but we don't have problems with smaller things. So what I did was put in, changed it from special use to permitted, make it more lax that way, but add the asterisk up to 40,000 square feet gross floor area in these zones with the asterisk. Again, limited to the zones with the asterisk, because I don't know what other zones it's permitted in. I don't want to touch that at the moment. Over that, require the special use permit. So effectively, you'll be allowing the medical offices and clinics up to that size, but no bigger.
Do we define our floor area measurements? And if so, what is gross floor area? Is that off the floor plates, or is that just rentable area?
No, it's not, it's gross,
It's
it's
the
all,
whole
it's
floor plate?
it's from the wall to the wall, the
Yeah,
exterior wall to
but
the
it
wall.
matters what floors as well.
Yeah, gross floor area is the total floor area of all floors of a building within the inside perimeter of the exterior walls, exclusive of vent shafts and ports, without deductions for corridors, stairways, closets, the thickness of interior walls, columns, or other similar features.
Without deductions for those things.
Would you consider HVAC and utilities inclusive of that exclusion?
The vent shafts would be.
I'm thinking most hospitals and medical office buildings and clinics have sometimes an entire floor that is dedicated to mechanicals and not just ventilation, but on-site chemical storage, and it's quite substantial. I'm just wondering if we're talking about floor area in the traditional rentable floor area sense or plates, because that is typically just the top floor and then...
We have a separate definition for net leasable floor area, which is defined differently, which would be the total leasable floor area of all floors of a building within an inside perimeter of the exterior walls, exclusive of the thickness of interior walls, vent shafts, ports, corridors, lobbies, common areas, stairways, elevators, mechanical rooms, closets, columns, and other similar features. So what this definition is using is the gross floor area. I mean, it's possible you would prefer to use net leasable floor area, but
No. I just think if 40,000 square feet of gross floor area, if I'm reading that right, or thinking about that correctly, is actually a smaller usable area than 40,000 square feet.
Yeah, it's
Which
probably
is-
more
yeah,
like
more-
32 to
Yeah.
35.
Yeah, it's
net
probably
leasable area.
minus one floor. But
Can someone help me visualize a 40,000 square foot building? Like anything nearby?
4 floors of the old Rite Aid,
Thank you.
roughly.
Okay.
That's about 10,000 square feet,
Yep.
give or
old
take.
one.
The old one.
This one.
The new one's
Yes.
maybe 15,
Okay, thank you.
probably.
Okay, anything from the public?
This line that you're on now, you have a P on all, on the TMS, the PBF, and the NB. So a clinic is approved for any of these areas? Okay, thank you. Oh, Randy LeBeau.
Okay, anything from the council? Anyone else from the public? Anyone else from the public? Anyone else from the public? Last call. All right, council. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the edits to hospital, medical center, or clinic as illustrated.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, I would ask that we take 4I and 4J
I think NK as well.
And K.
They all go together.
together.
So there was a question, we've got these three schools. We've got private nonprofit school, junior college, college or university, or private trade professional other school. We're trying to treat them more consistently, although not totally consistently. So, although we're taking them together, the idea for the private school was to make it a permitted use in the pedestrian-friendly district. So that would be throughout. I recommended that. The junior college or the university, I don't see us likely getting an entire college university. We might get a building, though, for an extension program from, UMass or coming the other way with CCRI or something. Leaving it in N, I wouldn't, for the neighborhood business, again, that's more of a mixed use and so forth area with residences, but put putting a P for both of those in those two zones, and then the private trade and professional schools already leave it that way. So those are my suggestions for I, J, and K.
Okay, anything from the public? Anything from the public? Third and final time, anything from the public? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the changes to 4I and 4J, changing for 4I for the pedestrian-friendly district from a special use to a permitted use, and for item J, for the pedestrian-friendly district, moving it from a special use to a permitted use.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Code 8B, tavern. I'm
Just
sorry.
one question, also on the I, J, and K, it also limits it to above the first floor
Yeah, I saw that.
in the TMS district.
Yeah, I saw that. You could take that out again.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that.
I don't have an issue with that.
Entertain a motion
What?
to remove that.
I move that we remove the asterisks from 4I, 4J, and 4K, and remove the wording "and above the first floor" in the TMS sub-district.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, all those in favor? Motion carries.
I was opposed.
Also with J. J also?
I said I, J,
Oh,
and
you
K.
said IJ, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't catch
IJ
that
and
part.
K.
Tavern or nightclub.
Okay, 8B, tavern or nightclub. All right, now we're getting good.
We're at the bottom of page 3 of the text memorandum, and we're under use code 8B.
B.
Yes, there was a question raised by a counselor about breaking that out more and I guess more between tavern and nightclub, but again, with the definitions, I didn't feel comfortable at this time. And this is something, there's no purple there or anything. So my suggestion, I think we've got a good distinction there with the adult entertainment or not adult entertainment as being permitted. And I think we've got a good distinction there with the entertainment and the restaurant and tavern. A tavern doesn't serve food at all. A nightclub really can have a bad impact on a neighborhood, particularly if it's got residences nearby or in it. So I was recommending no change to that one. And while we're at it, I think 8C is similar, theater or concert hall. I was recommending no change on that, keeping it as a special use throughout.
What is the, just talk to me, because that was my thing, the theater or concert hall. Just give me a little more than that, if you could indulge me, to help me
Well-
think about it.
I think that's the problem. We don't really have a definition of it.
Okay.
And so I'll let Kate check. Do we have a don't think we have a definition.
Okay,
So
that's
I
fine.
was concerned about changing things around. I don't want to, just for the sake of, I don't want to make it more strict to make it prohibited if we've already got it as a special use permit, but I don't think it should be opened up without some more definitions and clarifying.
And
I
think
agree
that's a-
with
I
the
think
comment
that's a
that it
good-
should be
I think that's a
defined.
good thing we ought to define in going forward, because there's a big difference, and this is only because I sit on the board of directors of a theater company, is that there's a difference between a 20-seat black box and a 600-seat
Exactly.
proscenium, or whatever you call it, proscenium, which is a theater for all intents and purposes. So, and I think we can conceive the former in these districts, not so much the
Right.
latter.
A nice little neighborhood theater,
Yeah.
like second-story theater,
Yeah,
or
I
the
think
GAM
that'd be-
theater, something like that, would be very nice
Would
in
be a
these
good-
areas.
Mhm.
A large concert hall
Right.
venue would probably be not so good.
May I digress for just one moment, and I'll be really quick? Through this process, I think there's one thing that's become crystal clear, and that's that our definitions are lacking in general. And I would suggest that through this process, you know, if I could just offer my personal opinion, I think the next step is to go through this use table, and every use should have a definition. And that's when, I mean, it's going to be a lot of work, it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of discussion, but I think that that's the next logical step, that to keep, you know, we're trying to accomplish the goals of this project before us right now, but I think it's led to the bigger overall goal, and that is to make sure that we don't have any of these uses hanging out there that are not defined moving forward.
I would concur. I think it would just go a long way towards avoiding a lot of ambiguity and misunderstanding, so.
Okay, anything from the public?
Are you done with 8?
No, not yet.
No. Anything else from the public? Anything else from the public, third and final time? Okay, seeing none. Anything from the council?
Nope.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
None's needed.
Oh, no,
think
they're not
there's-
making any changes.
Yep.
Okay, section 9.
Nope.
Nope.
We've got
17.
8D.
Oh, I'm
8D.
sorry. 18, use code 9F.
Nope,
No.
8D.
Where's
Indoor
D?
commercial
Number
It's
recreation.
above the
Oh, I'm
paragraph
sorry.
above. Yep.
Sheesh.
I know.
I wonder
getting
why,
tired.
that's important. Sorry. My eyes did not see that. Code 8D, indoor commercial recreation.
Right. As I've written here, we can't change the definition at this time, so I don't recommend any change to the name of the use. Town council's facing a request from a specific landowner, Mr. LeBeau, who's standing there, for a change that would apply to the entire neighborhood business district. And I think that would be more appropriate as a future time for a definitional change, if you want to go in that direction. And given where we are at this point, I would not recommend a change from what is recommended currently by the planning board and consultants at the end of the process, which is splitting it differently, requiring a special use permit in the TMS and NB. And I guess the NB is the particular question. And the NB, as we've seen all along, is the one that does tend to be stricter than the other two zones, because it's much more dense with residences than the other two.
Why, just a
But-
quick question. You said we shouldn't make a definitional change, and this is part of my comments when we talked about this initially, that there is no definition for this
That's right.
use, so that's why it kind of sticks in my craw a little bit, and
Well,
I'm somewhat unwilling to really make alterations to something we already know is open to interpretation, and we don't have a firm definition of, so.
Right. I mean, we have a use that, we already have a dispute between
Right, so
the town
it's
solicitor and the zoning officer.
clear that we need to figure out what indoor commercial recreation is, and we're not going to do it on this, in this iteration. I would just recommend, and it's my own 2 cents, is that we revert back to the original GC zoning, which is P for those 2 districts, and then we figure out this definition, and because we have at least one, and I know Andy disagrees with me, but we have at least one method of determining what the appropriateness of that use is, and it's the zoning official.
I don't disagree with you strongly. I mean, I've given a recommendation on here with everything.
Well, yeah, sure.
Because the council asked me, said, I'm supposed to summarize this and.
Yeah, no,
give a
but I think
suggestion,
that's
but-
the protection we would otherwise get in a special use permit is the authority of the zoning official to opine on whether or not that's a allowable use. And we already know that indoor commercial recreation, without a firm definition, and even the APA doesn't even agree what the firm definition is. I think it makes more confusion to have it as a special use permit, but that's my 2 cents.
I tend to be in agreement because of what it was, and again, without having a clear definition of what indoor commercial recreation actually is. I would recommend that we change that back, well, to a P, or a permitted use.
Kate and Ken, do you have any strong opinions one way or the other on this? Because I know we've talked about this ad nauseum, but.
I think we had much the same discussions, was that there was no definition for the indoor commercial recreation, and erring on the side of caution, the special use permit was recommended through the process.
Yeah, but I don't like special.
I think it was just that it was kind of a nebulous thing to imagine.
So in the absence of clarity around the definition, the special use permit process would allow the time and, let's say, methodology to conduct the due diligence necessary to kind of weed through.
Maybe.
Exactly. The special use permit is for that purpose where you don't know exactly what you're going to be getting from the development project. You want to determine what the issues are and address them in that permit process. So without a proper definition of knowing what the use is, it seemed appropriate in areas where we want to be more sensitive about the character of development to request a special use permit. So it doesn't say you can't put it in, it just says that there's a process
Sure.
by which we try to understand more appropriately how that use fits into the district.
And Kate, indulge me with your best professional estimate. If we are to go back and take a thorough and complete look at the definitions across the entire use table, what sort of time frame are we talking about there?
I guess it depends. It certainly, just the hearing process for something like that would take a considerable amount of time, because it would have wide-reaching effects. It would depend also on,
Order of magnitude, we're talking 6 to 12 months?
probably.
Okay. It's not like something we're going to rock out before the end of the summer.
I mean, it also depends on,
Yes, we can do it. Starting with
I've cleared my entire calendar
And every
for the
day
rest
from
of the
there on.
summer.
if that's what you wanted to do, then we could,
No, but
Can
in
we
all
take every meeting for the
seriousness,
rest
just
of the year?
order of magnitude, that's a heavy lift.
it is.
Substantial, resource-intensive sort of process.
And controversial.
But it's the way to fix the underlying problem.
Absolutely,
In
completely
this
agree.
way, and I agree with Ken, I would agree if it said almost anything else except something as vague as indoor commercial recreation, because I think we can all agree that there are some things that are obvious that fit into that box, but there are some that we don't. So, I like to use the special use permit as a last ditch, and it as to, there's a specific use that you've contemplated, that you acknowledge, there may be an appropriate time and place and scale and scope for this. Put it in as a special use permit, as long as it's defined. But I don't think saying indoor commercial recreation, we don't know what it means, what it encompasses. We think we do. It's probably a indoor soccer field. It's probably, a racquetball court. It's probably, I don't know what else, but, I think the special use permit in practice leaves too much to be arbitrary, and I just hate it. So.
Well, I think when it comes to indoor commercial recreation, I think one of the benchmarks is that anything of mega size, i.e. an indoor soccer thing, wouldn't fit in this zone because there isn't enough land to do anything like that.
But, I mean, I guess
You know, so I'm saying, those types of things that you think you might get that might be huge, I don't think.
My
that
concern
ever-
is not size, it's actual use. So, okay.
So do we have a motion?
No, we're still in discussion.
We gotta open it up to the
Okay,
public.
That's right.
Anything from the public?
You guys know I'm putting an indoor range. That's what I'm requesting to put there. I bought the property. It fit exactly the requirements. Your zoning official approved it immediately. He said what's going there is indoor recreation. I'm really deep into this project right now. And I request that if you decide, it's not fair to the rest of Tiverton, but I don't see him standing here, to change just my 117-224 indoor recreation permitted. That's what I bought it at. That's what I wanted to stay at. If you want to change the rest of Tiverton, that's up to you guys.
But again, that goes against what we've been trying
Then-
not to do.
then I'm
spot
ask-
zoning.
Okay, I agree. It's a bad thing to do. Then I would ask that you keep it as a P, like it's always been, what I bought it as. And like I said, I'm deep into the project anyway. And I just asked the town to vote and to keep it permitted, indoor rec permitted. And I can see that there's a little extra added line up there. Maybe I don't have my glasses, so maybe subject to
Other licensing requirements.
And we know what the other licensing is. There's no big secret. It's for the pistol range.
No, it's for all of those uses almost.
But I mean, we know what's proposed to go there.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is.
We're going to do that on the 28th, and we'll see from there, but that's another hoop that I really don't need to be jumping through, another special use, another 12 months, so.
And just-
If I could just note that that asterisk about the additional licensing goes back to October of 13. So it was specifically requested by a member of the business community that we make it clearer that there are additional licenses required in certain circumstances, you know, with liquor licenses, entertainment licenses, that kind of thing. And
Yeah,
that's where that came from, but.
First time I saw it on there.
Yep.
That's just added, so I just assumed that that's what it was there for. My bad for assuming that.
That's okay. But
Anything else from the public? Anything else from the public? Third and final call, anything else from the public? Okay, anything from the council?
I agree with Britt's earlier assessment with it not being defined and it being permitted earlier. It would kind of be, it would basically put any business owner, you know, excluding Mr. LeBeau from the conversation, just in general, just to even put a pool hall in, or anything, they would need a special permit to put a pool hall in. I mean, what kind of distraction is that really going to cause? With, you know, with all the alcohol or any of those
Didn't
types of
you see
uses
the
there.
Music Man?
Apparently not.
now I have that stuck in my head.
Okay, any other discussion from the council?
Only just say we need to make a priority of defining our questionable our questionable use
Description.
descriptions.
Okay. All right, I will entertain a motion.
Well, I will move that we change the indoor commercial recreation uses, proposed uses in the TMS and NB district, sub-districts, to as-of-right permitted uses.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6-1.
Mr. President, can I ask a question on Section 8E? Restaurant with a drive-through service. It was originally special permitted
No, it's
use,
not. I noticed that.
and it's now not allowed in the TMS sub-district and the NB neighborhood district. But it is allowed in the pedestrian-friendly district, which seems like should be the reverse. If you wanted pedestrians to go to a restaurant you wouldn't have a drive-through in a pedestrian-friendly district. So I'm just
But the
curious
pedestrian,
as to why it was not allowed in the TMS and the neighborhood business.
In the public sessions that were held, there was a lot of strong opposition to drive-throughs in general from the public, members of the public that attended those sessions. But the thought was that in the pedestrian-friendly district, with it being a more intensive commercial district, that through appropriate siting and design, that a restaurant with a drive-through service could be a valuable addition to the commercial area. But with the traditional Main Street, certainly any type of queuing or drive-through traffic backups or additional curb cuts just did not seem to be something that would be safe in that particular area. And in the neighborhood business district, it didn't appear to fit with the residential type qualities of the area with the limited curb cuts and the residential scale of development.
would the changes that have been proposed to the pedestrian-friendly in the restaurant with drive-through service, nope, never mind, forget it.
We also went back to the comprehensive community plan, which has language about limiting drive-through service restaurants. So again, it's the council's decision, policy decision, but that was something that came through pretty strongly with the public input portion of the project.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anything from the public, since it was brought up? Anything from the public? Third and final time, anything from the public? Okay, anything else from the council? Okay, I will entertain a motion on,
Yes.
oh, we already did.
On the-
Already did, okay. 9F, veterinary hospital or animal hospital?
It was suggested that this was use that should be allowed in a commercial zone. Actually, I mean, they're different uses, but the same idea, the general automotive repair shop. Well, let's take them separately. The veterinary office is currently permitted. It had been changed to a no in the TMS, and I recommend changing it back to partway to a special use permit.
I would make a motion that, oh, never mind.
Yeah, not sure. Anything from the public? Anything from the public? Third and final time, anything from the public? Anything from the council?
This makes sense.
What zone is Secana in?
It's not in any of these.
Residential,
No, it's in residential. Okay.
R40.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we change the designation for traditional Main Street for item 9F veterinary office or animal hospital from a not permitted to a special use permit.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay. 9G, general automotive repair shop.
Similar, this was a special use permit in the general commercial, and I was recommending moving it back to a special use permit even in the traditional Main Street. But, I don't know, to me, if you were going to make it not permitted somewhere, I'd make it not permitted in the neighborhood business. But that wasn't the question that I was presented with, so I'm not feeling strongly about any of this, but that's my recommendation.
And I think there might be a couple that are already in
Yeah.
There are
neighborhood
quite a few.
business.
In neighborhood business,
Yeah.
yes.
Not just one.
There's
Yeah.
none in the TMS, but
Right. Okay.
Well,
Anything from the public?
non-operational.
Anything from the public? Third and final time, anything from the public? Okay, council, I will entertain a motion.
I'd move that we make the recommended change to the traditional Main Street sub-district for item 9G, general automotive repair shop, from not permitted to special use permit.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'll just say that this was one of my questions, that the concern I have with uses like this and gas stations is that when we make it such that it's more difficult or impossible to recreate the use at a future date, the use continues on forever under the banner of, a pre-existing non-conforming use. That's all. To the detriment of the building and some other type things. But
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
aye.
Motion passes. 13B, product assembly.
Yeah, this is a weird one. I don't know if the use is likely to exist or not, but it was raised as a question. It's something that's permitted now in the general commercial, and it had been set to go all to special use permit. So my suggestion was similar with the hospital medical office thing. Put it back to a permitted use, but with the square footage requirement, in fact, the same one of 40,000 square feet of gross floor area. So that you don't want a big, huge factory going in to any of these areas, but if you got a small operation, if it's allowed now, let's leave it allowed.
I think this is an area where we also need to focus on some better definitions. We go from computers and electronic items, computers are electronic items, to scientific instruments, watches and clocks.
Games and toys.
And advertising displays, very specific uses, some of which I remember being in town that no longer exist. So that's possibly why they are very specifically outlined in the use table. But I think this is a great idea.
Okay. Anything from the public? Anything from the public? Third and final time, anything from the public? Okay, seeing none? Anything from the council? Yeah, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we change or eliminate the special use permit requirement and make an as-of-right use for product assembly, including but not limited to the rest of it, and with the asterisk of up to 40,000 square feet of gross floor area require, as of right, and over 40,000 requiring a special use permit in those zones, as outlined.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Okay. Hey, before we go to the general use table issues, are there any other items within this that the council wishes to?
I just have just a quick, not to keep going back to the same thing. The 2A and 2B, you had some existing family houses in Blissville Corners. If that's not allowed use, will they be able to sell their house?
Yeah,
Of
And it
course.
would be to a commercial developer, I would
not
imagine.
No, no,
necessarily.
they could sell it as
To a resident?
yeah.
Okay.
Right? Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What it's prohibiting, if you want to use that word, is that if there was a lot
Besides
next-
building it, but
well,
they would be
yeah, if
prohibited
there
possibly
was a
from
lot
additions.
next door that was empty, you couldn't
Yeah.
build a house on it.
Right.
They should be fine with additions, right?
Well, that's the open
Unless
question.
it's.
Yeah,
that's the open
something
question
Unless
that
the
we
have to
scale
check with.
exceeds.
Yeah.
We're not sure about the additions part, but that's not changing what's
changing
there
now,
now,
yeah.
because it's a no now. It's making it a little bit easier with the neighborhood business, but we're not changing it, and we'll check. I mean, I'm sure we're gonna be revisiting this stuff.
Do you-
That section definitely needs to be revisited, the pre-existing non-conforming, and actually I think she left. Mrs. Hilton and I were having a good discussion about some possible innovative ways to address some of these pre-existing non-conforming uses, and just this week. And I'd like to put some ideas together to bring to you to kind of get some direction on where you might want to go with trying to, well, we had talked with the maps about some of the pre-existing non-conforming businesses that exist in town that we couldn't cover under this project, such as those lots on Stafford Road, farther north on Stafford Road. And we kind of brainstormed up some ideas for possibly addressing those through maybe a program running through the town. So I would like to come back with something to address that issue.
Great. Okay. Anything else? Okay, general use table issues. C21, watershed protection overlay district versus commercial zoning.
Yes. It was pointed out that the goals are somewhat in conflict with one another between the commercial development goals that are incorporated in the ordinance before you and the existing watershed protection overlay goals. And I do concur with those statements, but again, we didn't advertise anything for the watershed protection overlay zone, so I don't see what we can really do at this point in time for it. I don't think we're making it any worse. I think the overall, easing up of the restrictions hopefully will make it better, and if the watershed protection is preventing it, it's not making it any worse.
Mr. President, if I may, I don't disagree with the solicitor's comment on that, but I would ask that the town council put on their list of follow-up items after this has been put to bed to actually address that, because up on the Bliss Four Corners, it is a constraint.
Yes.
Everything on the Ranger side is in the overlay district, and with the advent of technology and et cetera, I think there are safe ways of capturing runoff and pollutants that in the past were problematic for the town. But right now, you're changing, let's look at the Ranger site specifically, you're changing it from 50% to 70%, which looks good on paper. You're dropping the height from 50 to 35 feet. But then there's this overlay district that says you can only develop 10% of the land as impervious. You can't put a medical clinic. You can't, there's just residential. We were talking about 30,000, and your hope in the pedestrian-friendly is to have commercial on the first floor and residential on the second floor. You're limited to one residential unit per 3 acres there. So you can't even have one unit of residential on the second floor in a pedestrian-friendly neighborhood on that side of Bliss Four Corners. It's something that needs attention to incentivize people to actually develop it. And while everybody, and I know this town council is going to great lengths to protect the drinking supply, I think there's a compromise there, and 20%, 15%, 30%, there's some number that with today's technology is a very acceptable number, but a blanket 10% is just a killer up there on that whole side of the street. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, 22, regulatory framework of design guidelines.
Yes. One resident had criticized the overall design guideline format, suggesting, leave the design to the free market. And my response is that that's inherent in form-based zoning, which is what we're trying to do. We're trying to, give people more options with the use and control how the design looks. And that is at least the current theory, that it will better encourage development. So given that, and given your commitment to this, I don't recommend that you change that at this time.
Mr. President, might I go back to just item 21, just for a moment here? Kate, what would be a tangible next step for revisiting the watershed protection overlay district to explore what might be possible there?
Actually, I have a good answer for that. The Atlantic States Rural Water Association has graciously offered to perform 2 projects in the town of Tiverton. One for Nonquit Pond and one for Stafford Pond, and the end product of these projects will be source water protection plans. And these source water protection plans will look at best practices for development within watershed areas. They'll contain scientific data based on testing at these specific sites. They're going to be performing about 90 hours of field work in association with the reports. There's no cost to the town whatsoever, and the reports have to be finalized for their purposes by March. So I expect that the town council will, in relatively short order, have some concrete recommendations on methods that are working in other communities and methods that might be not necessary in order to protect the source water, the drinking water supply.
Thank you. Okay, map change issues.
You've got 2 here,
Yeah, we just took.
and I believe Kate's provided you with detailed maps of them. One is with DeMello, requesting to leave the general commercial zoning in place. And from a legal perspective, since we've got an existing general commercial zone in the west, I don't think it's any spot zoning. So that's really a policy question for the council.
I think the question was...
Sorry, after all my recommendations, I'm not giving you a recommendation. on
Yes,
this.
but I think the original question was, he was going to buy an additional piece of property.
Right.
That was, right now is zoned
General commercial.
general
Right,
commercial.
and he wants, so, but it's scheduled, if you do nothing, it will become one of these other zones.
Become R40.
It would
Right.
become R60.
Oh, I'm sorry.
R60,
okay.
right.
So instead of converting that portion of property to R60, it would be left alone as general commercial. Which is, because you can't extend the pedestrian-friendly district because of the way it was advertised and the way the law is.
You can shorten it, but you
can
cannot
shorten it.
increase it.
And it would leave kind of an odd situation, but it's a very specific circumstance behind that odd
And
situation.
it remains commercial.
Correct.
Which is what?
And it's a pretty narrow piece of property.
Yeah.
It's not going to have a whole lot of other
Are we leaving
uses.
other general commercial in the town?
Yes. Oh, yes, plenty of it.
All right, anything from the public? Anything from the public? Third and final call, anything from the public? The council? Anything from the council?
And this area would still, as Mr. Pagliarini brought up, this area is still subject to the restrictions of the watershed
Watershed
protection
overlay,
district.
yeah.
Right in the back.
This is sort of exactly the kind of stuff we're trying to get away from, is kind of these jagged lines and things. But it makes sense to address it somehow. Is there any mechanism available to us at a future date without a lot of fuss, include that in this zone, or do we have to go through the process all over again?
You have to go through the process all over a narrow area. You have to send
Yeah,
certified mail to
re-advertise
that
just for that.
strip
Yeah.
and 400 feet around that strip.
But
You'd
there
have
is a
to-
more complicated answer. If, say, Mr. DeMello purchases that piece of property and annexes it to his current property through administrative subdivision, then that becomes a bisected lot. Under our ordinance, a bisected lot, the zone line can be shifted 50 feet in either direction. So when he purchased that property and annexes it to his property through the administrative
will
subdivision,
become part-
then the 50-foot, then the pedestrian-friendly district shifts over 50 feet onto the other property.
That would be the case even if we left it on R60.
It would, yes, but I think,
But it could shift the other way. The general
could
commercial
shift-
could
shift
shift
the
the
other
other
way.
way
Right.
if he did it, if you leave it in place. So upon reflection, I guess I would suggest not changing it. I would leave it as shown on the map. Let it go to residential.
How wide is this parcel? It's an acre and
not-
it's...
It's 1.15 acres altogether, and that includes that whole portion. He's only looking specifically at a very small piece of it, which is 15,000 square feet.
It's probably less than 50 feet wide.
Yeah,
It's
but he said he wants...
86
Oh.
feet wide on one side and 145 feet wide on the other side.
So he only wants a little tiny piece of this slice.
But he
Isn't there a
was,
gas line there?
and there's a gas line there. So, but he was
It's an
suggesting leaving that whole piece just for future potential, is how I understood it. I mean, the potential is pretty limited by the watershed in general.
And the gas line.
And the gas line and,
So what I think I'm hearing is that we could keep it as pedestrian-friendly, and this gentleman could go through some administrative steps to achieve what he's trying to accomplish? Is that my roll-up?
If he purchased it, then, and an administrative subdivision to mate it with his existing property, so that would move the pedestrian-friendly 50 feet.
50 feet,
And that, just for reference, that would bisect the lot.
correct.
The lot is 106 feet wide.
But if you do leave it as general commercial, then it's commercial shifting to commercial. You don't have that same, if it's R60, then you're looking at the map and you're assuming that it's going to be residential use. If you're looking at the map and it's a split lot, general commercial, pedestrian-friendly district, then if that line in between shifts, it's kind of more of an expected change. You could argue either side of it, but
Yeah.
personally, I don't see the harm in leaving it as general commercial.
It's a non-developable lot anyway. It's
Right.
only 50,000 square feet.
And for financing purposes, it might be more financeable. I'm certainly not a
gigantic
finance expert.
easement.
But having it as a commercial zoned piece of property might be more desirable than having it as a residentially zoned property with some kind of contingency that could allow it to be used for commercial purposes.
Yeah.
Now, how wide is this piece again?
106 feet wide at its widest
All right,
point, which is
so
the southernmost.
what happens to the other 56 feet?
The other 56 feet. It would remain as the front portion would be pedestrian-friendly. The area that's highlighted on the map that I gave you would remain general commercial as it is today, and the R60 line would remain as it is today. So there'd be no change to the R60, there'd be no change to that portion of the general commercial, and the front portion would, the line that exists as the back property line, that would be the demarcation for the pedestrian-friendly.
Okay. All right, anything from the public? Anything from the public? Third and final time, anything from the public? Hey, council? Anything from the council?
So does that mean it's in or out?
It's not in the
It's not in the
pedestrian-friendly
pedestrian-friendly.
district.
So it's
We
out.
we have to determine whether or not we want to allow it to default to R60 or allow it to remain in general commercial.
Right, those are your choices, are R60 or general commercial. And if you do general commercial, you could go back and amend it if you wanted to and shift that pedestrian-friendly line back. If that's something you
Well,
want.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding that if we do nothing and he purchases that property, then 50 feet of it reverses to the
Not automatically.
pedestrian-friendly,
Right,
and then the rest of it remains general commercial.
right.
Okay.
No, R60.
Well, if you-
Oh,
And he petitions an administrative subdivision.
which
He will have
already
to
has
subdivide
prepared,
Yeah.
the subdivision.
Have we subdivided this lot already?
It has not been, it hasn't been recorded, but it has been submitted.
So the lot has been subdivided?
It's not officially subdivided, no, because it hasn't been recorded. So it's not reflected in land evidence. And it's one of those subdivisions that is told under state law, so it's been sitting out there for a while. So Mr. DeMello has had this plan for quite some time.
okay, so Well, what we need to do then is that portion we need to leave as general commercial.
That's what he's requesting.
Right, so it does not revert to R
60, correct.
You need to make a motion to that effect if that's
Okay.
what you want.
Okay.
I would make a motion that we keep the highlighted parcel as described in handout B-4A, totaling what looks to be 1.16
Yeah.
acres as zoned general commercial.
Do we have a lot number on that?
Second.
I don't have
I don't
a
see that
proper,
here
is it,
Oh, I can,
is it property
it's
ID 216-108?
No, that's the front lot.
that's the front
Oh,
lot. You were
okay.
the one with the back lot. I have it here.
Plat 215, lot 113.
That sounds right.
Sounds close.
Oh, I cut it off my copy. It is, oh. I cut it off every single copy that I made.
Okay, well, we...
Whatever.
I think it's understood.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's
Plat 215, lot 113.
the old map says 216-108, but, oh, wait.
That's the front parcel. Let's see.
Perhaps we avoid some ambiguity by
Yeah, I'm sorry.
keeping the lot number off of the motion.
Yeah, sorry.
The map.
Don't
Refer
listen
to
to
the
me.
map.
The map.
My motion stands then.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Yeah. All those in favor? Motion carries.
No.
Oh, opposed?
Yeah.
6-1. Okay, Hobson Avenue.
Similar thing, there was a resident requested to, basically against the expansion of the zone on the north side there. I think it's really a policy question in the town. I'll leave it to Kate, who prepared the map, to more clearly describe what the issue is.
I don't have a copy of what was submitted to the council from the resident.
Is that person here today?
I don't think I got that.
Thanks, I don't know.
You can take that back.
Hobson's here. I think she owns this house.
It's the L-shaped.
Again, it's one of those situations where if the lot is bisected, then the zone line can move 50 feet anyway.
Yeah.
If it falls on the, if the zone line falls on the property line, then that zone line is where it is, it does not move. If a lot is bisected, then that zone line can shift by 50 feet in either direction.
So if I'm looking at the map and I'm looking at the corner of Main and Hobson, I go behind the three buildings, whatever they are.
Yep.
I see the lot line and the little structure there.
Yep,
And then I see a bigger structure, what I assume is a house.
it is, it's a residence.
So you're telling me that because it bisects that particular lot, that small section is actually not included in the zone?
What we were proposing to do was to move it back to that back property line, which would include the entire that entire parcel within the zone, within the pedestrian, the neighborhood business zone.
Right.
it's currently bisected with that general commercial line. So if you left the line where it is, then it could still shift 50 feet because it would be a bisected lot. Your other option would be to exclude that lot entirely from the pedestrian-friendly district, and then from what I understand, then it would remain as a general commercial lot, and then you would still have that same issue with the lot line shifting, the zone line shifting because it was a bisected lot. But
Why?
Right.
Yeah, but
but it could shift if it's bisected.
is that currently zoned residential?
The house is zoned residential, but the yard is zoned commercial.
There was an administrative combination.
It's a split
What do you
lot.
call it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They combined the street-facing lot and the rear lot,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Okay.
And the folks that are requesting this are abutters to that lot, yes?
Correct.
Okay.
Have we heard from the owner of the lot?
Anything from the public? I don't think they're here. Anything from the public? Third and final call, anything from the public? Okay, no one here.
Have we heard from the owner of this lot that they suggested to be bisected? I don't know if we ever heard anything, if they had anything to say about it.
No, I don't recall.
Not
I
on
mean,
this issue.
I've spoken to her on other issues. She didn't comment on this issue. She
I'm not sure she's aware of
received
it.
notice.
I'm sorry. Like, can we just point at a map? I'm a visual guy, like, can't.
Sure. This is a single lot. Can you mind if I go on this?
for it.
This is a single lot. That's one lot. So one of the neighbors back here objected because what we propose to do is to move the line to here. So the zone line would cut across the back. And he likes it the way it is, like with this. So this is the area in question. That
So it's gonna be this one or this one.
At the end of Springer.
Now, buildings in that particular neighborhood business center, how far back from the road would they be required for setback?
Let me double check so I make sure I'm correct. In the neighborhood business district, the front yard setback is 25 feet.
So the whole purpose is to get the business closer to the road than farther back on the lot. So,
Side yard's 5 feet. Lot width is 75 feet, the rear yard's 35 feet. Lot coverage is 25%.
Rear yard minimum, or
Excuse me?
rear yard minimum is 35 feet?
Yes.
Do we allow you to use, I think I know the answer to this, but do we allow you to use the frontage of your abutting neighbor's property in your count? Can you skip over? For like, this is a dog leg, if they wanted to put a commercial building where that house is right now, they don't have frontage that would allow them to have a 25-foot front yard.
I don't know. I believe the front
I
yard
think
is
not.
measured back from the legal frontage.
Yeah.
So, it's not.
My opinion is, I'd like to hear from the person who owns the lot what they think, and I think without their input, it's difficult to have, we make a decision on someone else who doesn't own the lot to say, yeah, push this back, because I don't like it. And without the owner here or any correspondence from them, I have a hard time making a decision on that.
Well, the other
They
lot,
were, they were notified,
They were
correct?
notified.
They
The
were
other lot,
notified that
So
their
if you-
lot was being
If they
considered
can,
on.
they've come.
looking at that notice, that memo that you have, the other lot that would be affected would be Mr. LeBeau's lot, because that's another lot where, the next lot to the north is currently bisected, and we propose pushing it back to the back property line.
But that, they're not asking for that one to be,
But again, it's the same thing where the zone line shifts 50 feet
50
anyway
feet,
on a
right.
bisected lot, so in reality, it wouldn't have an effect. But I'm sure. Well,
It does.
it really wouldn't.
I think